Hi there, I'm David Hunt, owner of GameMasters Guild, and today on 5e Showcase, I'm going to showcase Dungeons & Dragons' newest adventural module called The Wild Beyond the Witchlight, which is a Feywild adventure. Now, if you were lucky enough to pre-order, you get one of these sweet books with an awesome cover. Now, however, check with your local FLGS, and if we're your local FLGS, check with us anyways, because, well, sometimes people cancel, and occasionally I'm able to order a couple after release, but usually pickings for these are pretty slim if you didn't pre-order. But not to worry, because everything you need is right in the same book. So what comes in Wild of the Witchlight? Well, there's some pretty neat stuff. One of the first things is, quite frankly, they got this awesome map in the back, which I'm not going to show it too quick, and I'm not going to show it all, because I don't want to spoil it in case you're going to play the game, as a player, of course. But for Dungeon Masters, you're going to see this stuff anyways. The domain of Prismeer, very nice. And also, too, we've actually got the Witchlight Carnival, and all these maps are nicely detailed and very, very well done. And also, too, something to keep in mind, of course, these maps are not to scale, so there's definitely some variance in distance and whatnot. So, just how do your players get into the Feywild for this adventure? Well, simply enough, the Witchlight Carnival travels different realms, and your players, no matter where they're at, probably on the material plane, the Witchlight Carnival will happen to be wherever the players are. And the players will check out the carnival, and then, next thing you know, they're having an adventure in the Feywild. Now, of course, this isn't the only time we've encountered the Feywild before. If you look in the Dungeon Master's Guide, there's actually a section on the plains, and it does briefly discuss the Feywild. And flipping through the monster manual, if you start looking, you'll see there are a lot of creatures that actually have the notation on them, Fey. And in their background, a lot of times you can glean more information about the Feywild just from reading the descriptions of these Fey creatures, as well as reading the Dungeon Master's Guide. So, the Wild Beyond the Witchlight, exactly what can we expect to find in it? Well, first of all, just looking at the module itself, even though it's as big as any of the other modules out there, it only takes characters from level 1 to level 8. And that's not because there's a lack of adventure in this book. No. Practically the entirety of the book is the adventure in Feywild. So there's definitely a lot going on, a lot to do, but I think it's going to be a little more, feels a little more lax, it feels a little more laid back, a lot more opportunity for some shenanigans and some RP. That's kind of what I'm feeling. And it's not going to be too intense, unlike some of the other ones where it takes you, the adventure module will take you to level 15 or even level 20. So I think this is going to be definitely a different feel, and a very Alice in Wonderland, I kind of, just by glancing through, very Alice in Wonderland kind of feel to it. Now, some cool things that are in here that I can tell you that's not too much of a spoiler are, like, for instance, the Feywild trinkets. Just like in the player's handbook, there's 100 different trinkets that you could get. One of them, let's say, is a salt shaker shaped like a wizard's tower, or a mask that helps you remember your dreams if you wear it while you sleep. Or, there's some really creepy stuff too, like a collection of baby teeth in a tiny wooden box. Now, how weird is that? That sets you up for some really strange adventures, even if you're not in the Feywild. If you find that normally, it's like, what is this? And it could connect to a Fey adventure. Who knows? Or just a villain, What else? There's new backgrounds, such as the Witchlight Hand, which means as a child, somehow you managed to find your way into the Feywild, and you joined the Witchlight Carnival as a youth or a young child, and you never looked back, never worried about home. Another background is a Feywild visitor, where when you sleep, a Fey visits you in your dreams, and you have a conversation with this Fey. And although you never come to harm, you remember the conversations, and sometimes these conversations can be helpful for you. Or you could even be a Fey lost, where a kindly Fey or an evil Fey either took you or kidnapped you to the Feywild, where you are now. Or it's possible you may have even stumbled there. Now, something that everybody always looks for in these new modules is new races. Are there any cool new races? There's two. If you want to play your own Fey, you can be a fairy. And some cool abilities with the fairy is, of course, you get fairy magic starting out at level 1, and as well, you also can fly equal to your speed. Now, I think what everybody's going to be really excited about is the Paragon. And I hope I'm saying that right, but basically they're rabbit folk. And they're medium-sized humanoids, unlike the fairy where you're a small humanoid. So they're medium-sized humanoid, and a couple of their cool abilities, not all of them, but a couple of their cool abilities, is one, hair trigger. And yes, it's spelled H-A-R-E. And that is, you get to add your proficiency to initiative rolls. That's kind of nice, especially if you're using the optional rule from the DMG where you have proficiency dice instead of just a straight bonus. And also, rabbit hop. And as a bonus action, you get to jump a number of feet equal to 5 times your proficiency bonus. So that's pretty cool right there. And there's a couple other cool things that the Haragon have, and I think it's cool that they have fairy in there, but I think a lot of people are going to want to be the rabbit folk or the Haragon. So, let's see, what else does this book have? Well, one thing's for sure, after you run the adventure, once you get a sense of how the carnival works and how things play out in the adventure, no doubt you'll be able to kind of run your own carnival if the players are interested. If the players want to be part of the carnival, or if you want to introduce it periodically, or do a whole nother carnival. And it doesn't have to be a fantastic one. It can be more of a normal carnival, try to from place to place to place. It gives you kind of a feel about maybe how these carnivals should be and how you can run them in your games after working this module. Now, there are some other cool things. Like, of course, for monsters, you're going to have some familiar folk, such as boggles or redcaps, but you're also going to have some really cool stuff, like Displacer Beast kittens, or singing mushrooms, of all things. Yes, singing mushrooms. There's a sentient oil can somewhere in the adventure. You're going to find giant snails, and, of course, there's going to be the Jabberwock. Oh, yeah. Cool, cool stuff. Now, I don't think this book would be complete without some more mushroom stuff, and I don't know, singing mushrooms, campestries, that's kind of cool. I'm going to have a lot of fun with those, and not even use this module, but in this module I can see you're going to have a lot of fun using them, and I'm not sure what the player's going to think about that, but shenanigans no doubt could ensue. So you also have a section where they describe the various types of mushrooms and toadstools found in the Feywild. Now, there's not too many. There's only 5, but one of them, for instance, is the Hummingbrella, which is a colorful mushroom with a frilly parasol shape that drips sweet nectar and attracts hummingbirds, and eating one has the same effect as drinking an antitoxin. So that's very, very handy, and this might be something where occasionally in the material plane, maybe players can find something. Maybe there's some kind of overlap somewhere, and they can find some of these mushrooms growing on the material plane where the Feywild and the material plane overlap, or maybe where there's a Fey crossing. Now, as always, there's going to be cool magic items in the back of the book, and that you can use anywhere. And a lot of them kind of have a flavor and feel. And I'm not going to mention any of them here because I don't want to spoil anything, but a lot of them will have the flavor and feel of the Feywild and fairy magic. Some of them, you know, seem like they could kind of be found anywhere, honestly. And so there's some pretty cool stuff. There's a few other neat extras as well, such as there's some NPC role-playing cards, which are very useful. And there's not just 3 or 4. There's a lot of them. There's a couple pages of them. There's also a story tracker as well in the back of the book, so you can keep track in the story where everybody's at, what they found, and if they completed certain things, which I think is very helpful to help organize yourself and keep track of where you are in the story, so when you break one night and you come back the next night, you kind of know where you're at. And I think that's very cool. I wouldn't necessarily write in the back of the book. That's just how I am. I would rather photocopy or scan and print out those pages, so in that way you've got them and you can keep track. And man, what a cool idea. I kind of hope they start doing story trackers in other modules, but then again, you could just make more copies of those and use them for your other modules, or you could even make your own. So all in all, I think the Wild Beyond the Witchlight is going to be super awesome and super cool, and it seems like there's always a book that has a cool race in it that everybody wants to be, and the rabbit folk, I think, are right up there. I think they're going to be pretty cool, and I gotta admit, as a kid, I just always thought humanoid rabbits really cool. I don't know why, it's just me, and I think it's going to be pretty cool, and I would totally love it. It's I don't think there's been a race this cool since Tabaxi, honestly. But anyways, doesn't matter. What matters is what you think, and honestly, I think you should go down and at least flip through Wild Beyond the Witchlight at your local FLGS or down here at GameMasters Guild and see what you think for yourself. And honestly, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. It's a cool new angle, and I think you're going to have a lot of fun with it, and it's going to be able to give you a chance to put some cool new things into your normal games. Even if you don't run the module, there's some cool stuff for your homebrew campaigns. Well, I hope you enjoyed this quick look at Wild Beyond the Witchlight. I'm David Hunt, owner of GameMasters Guild, telling you to stay safe, play great games, and I'll see you real soon.